Good afternoon, everyone. I, Badar Paracha, the Council and Family Engagement Coordinator, welcome you all to the webinar Poverty and Housing for People with Disabilities. In collaboration with Our Voices Matter from Karis Disability Services, formerly Christian Horizons, and Council of Community Living Ontario. Our presenters are Liz McDonough and Dzidra Halar from Our Voices Matter, Judy Noonan and Stella Curtis from the Council. Dzidra Halar is also a Council member, and today she will represent both Our Voices Matter and the Council. I thank you all for showing interest in learning about the challenges faced by people who have an intellectual disability. Today, our self-advocates will share their perspectives and concerns about topics such as poverty, lack of housing, and disrespect of human rights for people who have an intellectual disability. Speakers will share their experiences dealing with poverty and avoiding institution-like settings to enjoy full inclusion by living in the community. Self-advocates will also highlight the significance and power of advocating together through collaboration and using a collective voice to create lasting positive change. I request you all to keep your mic muted and hold on to your questions and comments until we reach the questions and answers part of the webinar. Also, the chat is disabled for the presentation part, but later chat will be enabled for your participation. So let's begin the webinar. I invite Dzidra Halar to present the land acknowledgement. Dzidra.
A credo of acknowledgement for the Council of Community Living Ontario. The Council of Community Living Ontario is thankful for being able to meet, work, and advocate on the traditional Indigenous territories, and the Council recognizes the 46 treaties and other agreements from all across the province of Ontario. We recognize that the first peoples took care of the land, and we will do our best to continue to care for the earth. We, as a culture of human beings, have suffered injustices, and we get it. Whether we have invisible or visible disabilities, as one of our intersectionalities, we have suffered and continue to suffer from prejudices, stereotypes, and biases similar to not to but not the same as indigenous people. We acknowledge the beliefs of First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. Our beliefs are we recognize that there is more to people than the labels that prejudge us. We fight for inclusion, education, and diversity. We fight to keep history alive so it will be remembered and not repeated. We emphasize, we hope, and work with Indigenous peoples.
Council embraces the Community Living Ontario movement, which is to create inclusion for all people by increasing equity in the community, by being actively involved in the conversation, by acknowledging self-determination and the dignity of risk, by being accepted for who we are and the differences that we have, by being active in community decision making, by being included in the paid workforce, by being treated as true members of the community. Council recognizes the value and importance of all people.
Is it my name is Judy Noonan. I am the council secretary. This is my second year on the council. My heart is the core of me. I hope that's what you will see today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stella Curtis. I'm a self-advocate for people with disability. I sit on the board of director of Community Living North Bay, and I'm also on the council. Of Community Living Ontario.
Hello, my name is Liz McDonough. I am the chair of the OVM Council. I advocate for people who cannot advocate for themselves and need help. I live in Thorold, Ontario.
Hello, my name is Dzidra Halar. I am an advocate supported by Christian Horizons and a member of Council of Community Living Ontario. I try to advocate for my peers in my community.
Poverty and housing for people with disabilities. Poverty is the root cause of the housing crisis. Today, we will speak with you about some of the barriers that get in the way when we are trying to be part of our community. We want to talk about topics like poverty, lack of housing, and people not respecting our human rights. We will share our personal stories. We want to share with you some of the things that make us happy, but also some of the struggles we have to experience. Living in the community is wonderful, but it can sometimes be tough. That's why we ask people who are trying to assist us to be intentional or to work hard and work creatively in helping us become full members of our community. And most importantly, to listen to us. The first thing we want to say is we don't want to be kept apart from our friends, families, fellow students, and co-workers. We need our freedom. We need the freedom to take our own risks. We are no different than anyone else. So please stop treating us like we are different. This type of thinking belongs in the history books. We no longer want to be isolated and treated with fear. Large and crowded living situations have proven to be a disaster. These places do not provide independence, and they create dependence. When you move us out of our community, people forget about us. The quote, outside people never know that the quote, inside people are what are experiencing. This will always lead to bad things happening. It is sad, but this is our reality, and people need to know this. We believe that if you ignore the past, things will never get better. They may even get worse. So, we want the government and service providers to talk with us. We don't want people to tell us what we need. It's our turn to tell the decision makers what we need. Together, we know we can build a better world. Together. Let's first talk about some of the things that prevent us from being successful in our community. Let's start with the topic of poverty. Back to you, Liz.
Poverty is the root cause of the housing crisis. Poverty for many people who have an intellectual disability is the biggest barrier to living a decent life. 75% of people who have an intellectual disability who do not live with their families live in poverty. People are not able to feel safe and secure when they don't have enough money to meet their basic needs. Being poor is not an acceptable way to live. When people are poor, nothing else matters. Living in poverty is stressful and affects our health, self-esteem, and our ability to live independently.
Thanks, Liz. I live in an accessible one-bedroom apartment in a low-income housing community. I pay 30% of my gross monthly income for rent. I live on the second floor with my 4 cats. Wealth Independent Living, which is an assisted living agency, has an apartment in our building. They use this as their office. This means they can help people who live in the building to stay independent by helping us with our care. Although I'm very much satisfied with my living situation, there is a downfall to this living situation. Low-income housing means you have more people with disabilities, mental health issues, addiction issues, and single parents living in the same building. Our building has had a dramatic increase in police presence. We have seen an increase in violence and fights. The other day, a visitor came over to our building to get something. Another tenant let him in as they thought he lived there. When the visitor was leaving the building, you could tell he was in a fight and used the playground exit where 2 to 5-year-olds were playing. And it's virtually impossible to get out of the poverty hole. Once you start getting ahead, the government supports you less, and you can never get out of that hole. I've seen an increase in renter turnover. We are underhoused, and people are always being moved around. My friend has a 2-bedroom apartment with 2 children. She must sleep in the living room so her children can have the bedrooms. Also, if we break something by accident, we must pay for it. For example, the staff would throw wipes down the toilet, and I had to pay to fix it, which is hard when you're already broke. I've already paid around $6,000 in repairs. Our housing situation is fantastic as they're always trying to make our lives accessible as they can. Our landlord is always looking for grants to get accessible equipment. By using a wheelchair, it feels like driving a car through a house. It's challenging for me not to bump into walls and scuff doors. Put some furniture in there while you're driving around and see how you do. My wheelchair is not a small manual chair that you can just fold up and put away. I have a hard time using my wheelchair in my bedroom and bathroom. Although my apartment is accessible, it's challenging for me to get my wheelchair through the doorways in my apartment. I can reach the upper cupboards when I stand. But how does that help someone who's using their wheelchair full time? Lucky, our landlord is trying to get accessible tables for the outside so we can all enjoy a meal together. They often have barbecues. We have tenant board meetings and activities where we meet and do things together. They are working on getting accessible door openers for our patio doors. They have great ideas and they need people with disabilities to write letters to get grants. They struggle to determine priority updates. The landlord is always looking to bring the tenants together and build a community of support for each other. Overall, our building is more community-based. I have noticed the building works as a community to help each other and try and is trying to make positive changes for everyone. I've been inquiring around my building about our living situation, and people who have children who live in the building have expressed their children are more open and accepting of disabilities. Thank you. Back to you, Stella.
The community living movement. Let us go back in history and learn about the beginning of the community living movement. The beginning of the community living movement in 1953 came as a different option to the institutional government model. This movement started as a grassroots movement to provide real option for families within their homes and community. With a similar goal in mind, Karis Disability Service, formerly Christian Horizon, was founded in 1965 by a group of families who dreamed to support basis on justice, respect, and the value of people with disability. They began offering residential service in 1976. Life in the community surrounded by people loved ones has proven to be the best way to ensure people are valued and respect roles and fulfilling lives. Judy housing story gave us the perfect example of community-based housing. The community living movement has evolved from trying and copy institutionalized program and service to be more individualized. The focus has been on development support that build bridges to the community. Today, community living start with a person knowing and understanding their goals and the support that they will help them. The focus is not on the place where they live. There are many people who have been able to live there, these institutions, and live full and exclusive lives in the community of their choice. These stories inspire possibility. They are the reminder and that safety and security is not found in hiding away building. Safety, security, and self-worth are found in living a full life in the community. It is it is when friends, family, fellows, students, co-workers, and employers keep an eye on a person who is vulnerable. That is that is what makes people safe. When someone is full of appreciate, members of the community belong. We appreciate who for who they are. Dzidra,
Article 19, living independently and being included in the community. Let us review the United Nations Convention on the Human Rights of Persons with Disability. Article 19 talks about the rights of people who have a disability. The rights say persons with disabilities have the opportunity to choose their place of residence and where and with whom they live on an equal basis with others and are not required to live in a particular living arrangement. Persons with disabilities have access to a range of in-home, residential, and other community support services, including personal assistance necessary to support living and inclusion in the community and to prevent isolation or segregation from the community. Community services and facilities for the general population are available on an equal basis to persons with disabilities and are responsive to their needs. Liz?
The self-advocacy group People First describes rights as rights are the rules that help make people equal. You are entitled to the same rights under the law as everyone else because you are a person and a citizen. Rights which are backed by are known as legal. People who have any type of disability need to be aware of their rights and respected and heard when they speak up about their rights. Having a right means that the law will protect you if someone tries to prevent you from exercising those rights. The person who is trying to stop you is breaking the law and can be punished. Judy?
No, thanks, Liz. Knowing about our rights, we think it would be great if people who are experiencing disabilities would be part of the planning and designing of the housing buildings. People who are making a decision are given choices. It is important to understand that a decision can be made when a person is given all the information. They need to understand the whole picture. A choice is made between two or more options. Information on all the options must be given so the person is able to make an informed decision. A person who has a choice about decisions in their life means they have control over their life. A person who has control in their life means they're probably using their personal rights and freedoms, and they would likely be a satisfied person. Now I'm going to read you my poem called The Housing Crisis. And how, here, wait, just give me a second. How do I write about the housing crisis? How do I write about it? Where the government's madness has left some of us homeless. The government needs to live in our shoes, to shop with inflation, the expenses of healthy foods, rent, food, hydro, gas, internet. Don't be confused. These are just as important, and none of these should ever be excused. Poverty limits what you can choose. Sometimes, like an animal forced to live in a zoo, there's limits to what you can choose. Where mental health issues would be more than just the blues. The housing wait lists are so long. How do you stay so extremely strong when these situations are so very wrong? You should never be sent. You should never be sent to a nursing home or a group home, or even have to live with family at their home. I wish there was more choices shown on how you can do it on your own. Why are we being allowed to live in strife when we are the author of our own life? Let's show the government through your own eyes that their perception shows some lies. Educating others about their responsibilities and rights helps them fight their fight. And walking hand in hand, politely we demand accountability, equality, equity, affordability, accessibility. And by helping the government transform this new norm, we don't have to stay conformed. We can change the course of directions because we have reflections and we are versatile. We are versatile, and we can all brainstorm ideas, criteria, And with our help, the government will be informed and hopefully listen so that we will not be ignored, and then the trust in the government can be restored. And we don't have to stay this way. Well, I pray this every day, where people can live in their own home and not feel withdrawn or from being torn to give up what's rightly their own. Where workers can work with you alongside, building a cozy home inside, where you can reside in AODA standards, raise no hazards. Some subsidized apartments, they think it's important to build them fast and cheap. It makes more waste as Mother Earth weeps. With all that unnecessary waste from such haste, I know in my space, my home is my secure place. I am blessed to have a secure home and not one made from styrofoam. I am warm and I am safe from harm, and I have workers not far from my own arm. Though, my friends, there were others like our fellow brothers and sisters who were, they were told where to go. For sure, that has to be a big blow. The governments and agencies above, please listen to the people you serve. Together we can make a new process where everyone deserves a home where their needs are met that they would prefer. Listen, when you do this, you will get less resistance from the people who are just living in complete existence. With a little empathy instead of sympathy, with just a simple glance, you're giving lives a second chance. You will see you in all of us. You will no longer be in a trance, but together we will be in a creative dance. And you did something, boy, oh boy, that no one could ever destroy without permission, our inner joy. Thank you. Back to you, lovely Stella.
How far we have come and how far we still need to go. Today we learned that the community about community living movement. We want to share some story with you about my experience with institutionalization. When I was 5, my parents took me to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist suggested to my parents that I should be put in an institution. My parents and grandparents were shocked by this suggestion and told the psychiatrist that just because I had a disability, it doesn't mean that I should be put out away somewhere. They believed in me and knew that with the right support, I could be integrated into society and live a life of my choosing. When I grew up, going to a Catholic school, it was time for my classmate to get our Holy Communion. I was all lined up with my classmate, and my teacher came to get me and put me upstairs away from everyone to be with the nuns. I didn't get my communion that day because my teacher didn't want me to be in front of everyone just because I was different. I got my first communion and my first confirmation in grade 4. I am sharing these stories to help you understand what it was like for me to grow up in time when people didn't understand me and my disability. Institutionalization happened because people fear that they didn't know how to support people with disability. If my parents had not advocated for me, I would not be here where I am today, being a part of two important groups sharing my story and making sure institutions and places that hold similar structure are removed from society. I shared this story to you. I shared this story to tell you all that even though the peak of institution happened many decades ago. The attitude of institutionalization still exists and continue today as well. Dzidra?
Choice and dignity of risk. This is my story about feeling that I belong and am included in a normal housing community. I rent an apartment in a building. There are a few agencies that support people in the same building. I am supported by Christian Horizons in a supported independent living setting. I am satisfied with my living situation as I have given the choice of living where and with whom I want to live with. But I had to advocate with my organization to gain this choice, which was my right, and I exercised my right. There are non-disabled people who live in my building too. I have become friends with some of my neighbors. They treat me like a normal human being, which is the way we should all be treated no matter what type of person we are. And everyone should have the ability to live a normal life without segregation. The setting I live in is a working relationship between the City of Toronto and my former building management. Although I say former, as my building was owned by Shiplake Properties, now my building I live in is run by a different management team. I hope more places like where I live can be created in Ontario so that people will fully belong and enjoy choice and dignity of risk like me.
Inclusion is possible. I started out living independently at a building. It became a bad situation because I was in a deep depression. I met some friends in that building, and one friend suggested I move in with one of the other girls. I did, but I felt very neglected and not wanted there. I became more depressed and ended up in the hospital. I came home from that, and my auntie said, "Oh, you're home, good." But the other girl made me feel unwanted because she said, "Oh, you should have called me," kind of in a sarcastic, rude voice. About a week later, I moved in with my auntie. I was only supposed to stay there for 6 months. And again, one of the other girls said, "Oh, you should go meet this family. I know. They have a deaf girl." Because I am hearing impaired, I was interested and went and met the family. 3 months later, I moved in with this family, which is where I am now. I feel very welcomed and very loved. I call her mom. Her name is Cheryl. There are 3 sisters and 1 brother that live there. Sorry, that live here. They all have disabilities as well. I feel so welcomed there here. I can also be staff when mom needs me. I helping out when mom needs me as well, too. There's a lot of love at this place. She helps me out when I need help with money, when she can as well. I have a lot of medical issues. I have a feeding tube, catheter, and a port now. All my catheter supplies are basically covered. All my port supplies are basically covered. For my feeding tube, the other thing that's really covered sorry, the only thing that's really covered is by ODSP is my feed, which I'm on Peptamen 1.5. The rest I have to pay for. That is the machine, syringes, gauze, bags, sterile water, and much more. I only get 1,230 from ODSP, and that doesn't cover most of my bills. I pay my mom 600 for rent and for room and board. And to be honest, that's pretty good. You couldn't find any cheaper anywhere else. I'm very grateful for where I live now. ODSP is still not enough to live on, and poverty is still out there. Dzidra?
Intentional about community. A community that is intentional about inclusion would be accommodating and accepting. The members have the members would reach out to check in and offer drives to community events. Social interactions would be positive because the community members would be willing to talk with us, sit with us at the table, and have us participate in the way we are able to. The community would accept what we are able to offer and not be judgmental about us. The community would realize what they receive from us may not be the same as from mainstream families, but what we have to offer is the best we can do within our ability. Being intentional about community means people with disabilities live alongside families, adults, and single people. We are part of the bigger picture rather than being segregated from our communities. Stella?
Change can happen. We didn't choose to have a disability. We didn't choose to be poor. Poverty is a major reason there is housing crisis. We need to have resources to meet our needs. This is our right, and it is the right thing to do. We advocate for the province to invest in more small-scale community-based housing for people who have developmental disability. We want to change in the community, in homes of our choice, and with the people of our choice. We, the Council of Community Living Ontario, and our Voice Matter know that change can happen if organization and government officials work with us and our allies. We need to collaborate and communicate to find solutions to ensure people who have an intellectual disability receive an adequate and equitable income. Inclusion in our community depends on having the money needed to afford accessibility housing, healthy food, transportation, participation in social and political activities, and education and employment. Inclusion and belonging will happen when people follow the golden rules of treating other people the way that they want to be treated. Our lives depend on changes. Change can happen, and change will benefit everyone, us, our family, friends, and neighbors. Ooh. But we're here.
Who reads this one?
Okay, let us open this discussion up. What does being intentional community means to you. 1. What are the things that can help to be part of your community?
Hello, everyone. The chat is enabled. You all can write your answers by writing in the chat, or you can unmute your mic and answer the question. Or if you have questions, please let us know. Stella, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I already read it before you could even come on. What are the things that help you be part of our community? Can anybody answer the question?
Church and libraries.
Can you repeat that, Patricia? I didn't hear you.
Churches and libraries.
Churches and libraries. Thanks.
Yes, Stella, can you read the second question?
Oh, wait.
What are some of the things that stop you from being part of your community?
Wait, Vanessa, I think had something to say. Sorry.
Yes,
I
Vanessa.
did. Thank you.
Oh.
I've never been on a webinar before, sorry. But I think it helps to keep us included if we have an organization that kind of advocates for us. Like I'm supported by Community Living St. Catharines, and they're pretty great. They're pretty great. We could do craft classes, we go on trips, you know, different things like that. So I think that really helps, and hopefully our family's supportive. I'm lucky to have a supportive family and friends, but I also recognize not everybody is in that position. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Should I just go on number 2? What are some of the things that stop you from being part of your community?
Not having accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
because not all places I mean, I'm on the autism spectrum and I'm considered highly functional, but I still have problems. I don't know what other word to use, but if there's more accessibility and if we're made to feel more welcome. Because I mean, sometimes I get looks like, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You look normal. Well, you know, maybe that's a great attitude to have. I don't know, but that's not always easy to deal with. Things may look easy to some people, but they're not to people like me. Not always. Thank you.
You're welcome, Vanessa.
Someone
Keegan.
wrote,
Keegan wrote something in the chat.
I was just going to say that.
Yes.
Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah.
please.
Okay, it says, I am not a person with an intellectual disability myself, but people I have been involved in supporting for many years have told me that finding a real job in the community in an inclusive workplace was the biggest change in their life because they were not only feeling included, but it helped them deal with issues of poverty. Unemployment is very high for people with intellectual disabilities, even though it is now very low for Canadians as a whole.
I agree with that, with what
So do
Keenan wrote, 100%.
Yeah.
Can people talk about community? Where do they live? What kind of home do you want to live in? Yes, Liz?
I know I'm on the committee, but I know for me, when Cheryl moves, or not moves, but like when Cheryl's unable to take care of us anymore, I want to be in a caring community with people that are going to accept me for who I am, because I get looks like I'm a part-time wheelchair user. So sometimes I use my wheelchair, sometimes I'm walking. So I get looks like, do you really need that wheelchair? And different things like that. So that's not very comforting to me. It's like, I don't really need those looks. Like, you don't know what I'm going through right now. Like, yeah, I might be using it now, or not using it now, but the day I am using it, I really need it. So I need that caring community around me, somebody who's going to wrap their arms around me, kind of like Cheryl did, and accept me for who I am.
Any more questions? Judy?
No, I don't seem to have any more questions.
Patricia?
Yes. Is there anyone who would like to share their living situation right now? Do they like it? What is the good thing about it? Can anyone from the participants?
Well, sometimes having special needs, well, sometimes it's okay, but sometimes people are totally treating me differently. They look at me differently. Well, some people do, and yet some people I seem to be okay. It's one of those odd like things sometimes, and even when I'm out like in my own community, like it's the same sort of thing. Sometimes people are good to me and they're nice, but other times people are quite horrible. And I'm almost getting emotional, but it's like because they're always because they're always well because I've had my feelings hurt a few different times, and it really hurts a lot.
I think, Neil, we're all with you with this.
Yeah.
People are so cruel for us. And I think I could put you in your shoes. Some of my friends are like that too, but they are so mean. Like, then we could just turn around and say, okay, don't pick on us because we have disability. Look at yourself. You're not better than we are. We could control, we could just talk. Don't tell us not what to do and not to do. You have to stand up and tell them that, hey, I'm an I'm a human being just like you are. So don't treat me like this, or else I could just turn around. And say, how would you like to be be a person with disability? How would you like that?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to share their housing situation? Dealing with poverty? Yes,
I would.
please.
I'm currently living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate. I currently got it from Community Living Ajax, Pickering, and Whitby. It's a subsidized unit housing situation, you like to call it. It's not really the accommodated that I would like to live in because it's very difficult to get a 1-bedroom for like $2,200 because the low property for ODSP, we do not get enough money to live on. And plus they gave me this benefit called the portable housing benefit through Durham Region. They actually kind of trick you to take it because if you take the benefit, you're off the housing list.
Oh.
So it doesn't matter where you live. It's not price like the affordable rent. You can't compare it with the money that you get. So somebody really should address housing and what's going on. Because I've been on the list for like almost 12 years and I haven't got a phone call, nothing.
Mhm.
So I don't know what to do at this point.
So, Seema, are you paying 2,200 for rent?
It's subsidized housing. It's low
Okay.
income.
Mhm.
But before I was living in full marketing rent and it was like $1,700 a month and that couldn't even pay my bills or my water or anything.
Mhm.
So right now it's still the same thing because you still have to pay for food, internet, cell
Yes.
phone, because the money that ODSP is giving us, it's not enough.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know what to do at this point.
Yeah, and rent went really high, but did ODSP go up the same that the rent did? I don't think so.
No.
It didn't.
Right. So I don't know.
Mhm.
So
And
that's what I have to deal with. And plus I have a special diet too as well. So they don't give me as much for my diet as well. So yeah.
And you are on the waiting list for housing for many
Yes.
years. Okay.
I was since 2012 and then from there didn't even get a phone call, nothing for housing yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
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 Thank you for sharing, Seema.
No problem.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone else who would like to share? Any concern, any question?
The third question. Oh, contact info. It's on this. Thank you. How to reach us. For more information, contact the CLO Council website. Badar Parashar, CLO Council Coordinator. B. Parabar Community at Community Living Ontario at Ontario.ca. Or Paya Kaczynski, CLO Director of Inclusion Initiative. P. Kazanki at communitylivingontario.ca. So if you have any information that you want to share up, that's the council website is https // be it .ly/CLO-council. If you have any question, you could just let us know, either three of us. Thank you.
Thank
And
you, Stella.
I put the Our Voices Matter website into the chat box in case anybody wants that.
Oh,
Thank you, Jasmine.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Jasmine.
If you have questions, please, you can ask. We still have few more minutes. We can answer your questions.
My apologies, I got a phone call. I had to duck out for a minute, but that's okay.
Dzidra, would you like to share something? Stella, Judy, Liz?
Was there anything that didn't make sense to you or you didn't understand
Good.
of the
Good
webinar?
question.
I understood everything personally, except for the last couple of minutes, but I'm not going to ask anybody to repeat it because it's an important call I had to take. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
Are you guys okay getting that information down? Do you know what to do with the emails? And if you needed anything, can you get that information okay? Is there another, like if you can't write it fast enough or something, you maybe we can connect with you to get it to you.
Well, if I thought of anything, like I figured maybe Community Living St. Catharines could probably help me out if I needed to.
Okay,
Not
good.
that you guys can't, I'm just saying.
Yeah, like if you could get that email down fast enough.
Exactly.
So there are a couple of questions and comments in the chat. Is it okay if I just read them out to you? Sue said, thank you for sharing your presentation. And then later on, Miranda said, everyone did a fantastic job. Thanks for sharing this. And Keenan is asking, what is next? Any follow-up meetings planned? And he said, sorry if you already said it's noisy here, but I don't think you guys said if there's anything planned next. So CLO Council or Our Voices Matter, do you guys have anything planned in terms of advocacy?
Thank you so much, Jasmine. And thank you, Keenan, for asking this question. So right now we have not planned anything, but we will and we will let you all know if our presenters feel like sharing more regarding housing and poverty. So we will let everyone.
And I'd be happy to, add some more, if you guys want to know more about my particular situation, just feel free to let me know. This is just my first one, so I didn't know what I was supposed to say or do.
So, Benissa, it's good that you can write the information that is being shared on the screen, and you can look at the website. And there is also Christian Horizons, which is now Karis Disability Services. Their website address is also there in the chat.
Okay, I'm trying to write it down here.
I think it's good for people to know that the council did the same presentation last week at the Community Living Ontario conference. So a whole different group of people heard this information, and you have plans to do it again at what's the conference you're going to next week, Dzidra?
Speaking Out conference.
Speaking Out conference. So another group of people will hear this. So your message is getting out there. And then Our Voices Matter. Just today, I started seeing emails. People are writing not about housing and poverty, but people have started emailing MPPs about more funding to the disability services sector, developmental services sector. So that's something that Dzidra and Liz Ray is wanting to start a conversation about that. So there will be letters written and possibly a meeting with an MPP. So there is advocacy always happening in the background. And like Badar said, as more happens, news will get shared.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. Thank you,
Excellent.
everyone. Thank you,
Thank you
for your participation today. If you have other concerns, you can feel free to reach out to us. The email addresses are in front of you, and you can look at our website as well. And we will stay in touch with each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
See you guys next week.
Yeah. See you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.